Hey guys, welcome to another video on my channel here, Deliciously. Today's video topic is a very interesting one, and everybody who is balding really needs to pay attention to it. I put a lot of research and thought when making this video, so hopefully you guys are going to get something useful out of it. So I wanted to discuss the topic of scalp massages and how they can be used to promote hair growth. There's a lot of skeptics who are thinking, how the hell are you supposed to regrow hair using scalp massages? And they think that scalp massages have no benefit when it comes to regrowing hair. And the majority of people, when you think about hair loss and the causes, we tend to think about DHT and androgen. And we already know that testosterone converts into DHT, which causes the hair follicles to miniaturize and eventually stop growing, which results in baldness. Now, the last couple videos that I did make have been about using microneedling and derma rolling with minoxidil and how it can actually help promote hair growth. So if you guys didn't know, minoxidil is a vasodilator, meaning that it helps increase the blood flow to the hair follicles on the scalp. And if it's applied consistently, it's going to have the ability to help regrow hair that's on the scalp. A good example of this is when a person breaks an arm or a leg, and many people experience thicker and longer hair on the area where the cast was removed. And this is because of the increased blood and nutrient supply to the area from the healing process, which is exactly the same reason why microneedling and derma rolling works in regrowing hair. So this photo here, it shows a very good example of somebody who broke his thumb and a cast was put on. The photo on the bottom here shows thicker and longer hair growth compared to the other hand on the right. And it's pretty clear to see that there is a lot more hair growth. And if you guys ever did break your arm or leg, if you guys did have a cast, you guys will know that this theory is true. So my theory is that anything that results in the increase of blood flow to the scalp and the hair follicles should have a positive impact in terms of hair regrowth. Now, scalp massages work because they help increase blood flow to the scalp and the hair follicles. It is temporary because, we're not going to be able to massage our scalps 24/7. But more importantly, it works because it breaks up something known as fibrosis. Now, fibrosis is a term that a lot of you guys might have heard in the hair loss community, and it's pretty much thickening and calcification of the tissues on the scalp. So what scalp massage does is it's going to help break up the fibrosis that's on our scalps, and it's also going to help relieve scalp tension, resulting in more blood flow to the scalp. And it's going to help stop DHT being used as an inflammatory response, which will prevent fibrotic buildup. Balding men and women really need to find a way to provide consistent blood flow into the hair follicles, since fibrosis is one of the main causes of inhibiting blood flow, which would eventually kill off the hair follicles. As you guys know, I did mention earlier that DHT causes fibrosis as an inflammatory response to chronic scalp tension. Balding men are going to notice that the skin on their scalps, where there isn't any hair, is going to be a lot more thicker and less pliable than other areas that do have hair. And the main reason for this is because of fibrosis. So if you guys are bald, take a look at the area where you're completely bald. It's going to be very thick, and if you guys were to touch it and compare with an area that does have hair, it's going to feel different. So the derma roller study I talk about in the past couple videos shows that minoxidil is far less superior by itself, but when it is actually used in conjunction with microneedling, it dramatically improves the results of minoxidil, leading to far more hair growth. This isn't because of absorption, as many people believe. They think that if they apply minoxidil right after derma rolling, it's going to open up the pores, but that's not true, because what we are doing is we're supplying the hair follicles with consistent blood supply from the healing process that derma rolling brings, as well as breaking down the fibrosis on the scalp. Microneedling with minoxidil isn't for absorption, because you're going to end up with all sorts of side effects from minoxidil. So I would urge everybody to try to incorporate scalp massages into their regimen in addition to microneedling or derma rolling and minoxidil. And I've read a lot of positive results which help those suffering from scalp itching, excessive oiliness, people suffering from shiny scalps, folliculitis, and most importantly for hair loss. So using all three methods, like I said, scalp massages, microneedling, and minoxidil, isn't going to completely stop the balding process, since something also has to address DHT. And that is where Finasteride comes into play. There really isn't anything out in the markets right now approved by FDA like Finasteride in terms of its effectiveness. But at the very least, we have scalp massages, derma rolling, minoxidil, which is going to help slow down hair loss. Now, I don't want to be an advocate for Finasteride. If you guys have been following my channel, you guys do know that I do use Finasteride. But obviously, each person's body works differently, so you guys might experience certain side effects. So the best thing to do is to go ahead and consult your doctor prior to using it. So the study I found showed that scalp massages resulted in increased hair thickness by inducing stretching forces to the derma papilla cells in the subcutaneous tissue. I'm going to be leaving the link in the description box for those who are interested in reading about it. It's actually pretty interesting because something as little as scalp massaging on a daily basis actually showed some pretty good results. So the study pretty much had 9 men who received 4 minutes of scalp massages per day for 24 weeks using a scalp massage device. You can also just use your hands. I think that works better. Just 4 minutes a day. So hair follicle width was increased, although density was not changed. Gene expression was changed via scalp massages. So the actual balding process results in hairs that grow weaker and weaker over time. It just doesn't fall off. So boosting the strength of each hair follicle would increase its overall strength and lifespan, and it can also possibly bring back and reverse the vellus hairs to a terminal state, which would make the hairs permanent. So let me show you guys a quick demonstration on the technique to use when doing scalp massages. It's pretty simple, and the important thing is that you are breaking up the fibrosis on the scalp and promoting blood flow into the hair follicles, so that you can go ahead and regenerate more blood into the scalp, leading to more growth. So you want to make sure that you guys go deep and forceful into the scalp, and if it's done correctly, you should hear a crunching sound. Now, some people do say that this is because of the fibrosis on the scalp that's breaking up, and many people who have actually tried this say that over time, the crunch sounds that you hear is going to be less and less noticeable. So it is a good sign that shows that fibrosis isn't there as it was initially. So it's kind of like, squeezing a pimple. I've actually done this for a few weeks, and I can definitely notice my scalp being a lot more pliable. So what you want to do is you don't want to dig into your scalp using your fingernails. You just want to use the fingertips, and it's kind of like you're, popping a big giant pimple, and you should kind of hear a crunching sound. So you want to go ahead and do this for 4 minutes. You guys can go ahead and do this when you're showering. I think that probably works the best way. With warm water, especially the temples, and for those who are balding, in the mid-scalp. You want to do something like this. I know it kind of looks funny, but it does help break down the fibrosis of the scalp, according to my theory, and it's going to help increase the blood flow into the hair follicles. Now, some people do, say that doing headstands is going to be beneficial because if you're doing headstands, all the blood flow is going to go to your scalp. But then that really doesn't really do anything as far as breaking down the fibrosis on the scalp. So you want to go ahead and try to incorporate this on a daily basis. It only takes 4 minutes of your time. I mean, I can't really say that scalp massages is going to help in regrowing hair 100% of the time, but based on my studies and my research previously done, it does seem to show some pretty good results and benefits for those who are suffering from hair loss. Now, one last thing I do want to mention is that I previously made a video about a year ago on how balding men had a higher correlation to heart disease. Balding scalps have actually been confirmed to have fibrotic tissue, and I say that the link between balding and heart disease works the same way because arterial fibrosis causes the arteries in the heart to narrow and thicken, which would result in a higher blood pressure and inhibiting blood flow. There's actually several studies that do confirm that balding men have a higher risk of developing heart disease. Now, we don't know if balding is a direct causation of heart disease, but since balding involves calcification of the scalp and heart disease also involves calcification of the blood vessels, we can't really discount the fact that there might be a correlation or a link between hair loss and heart disease. And there certainly needs to be more research done and further assessed. But I just thought that it was interesting to kind of bring up the two topics because there is, based on some studies, that indicate that they are related. So I would love to know you guys your thoughts on all of this. If you guys have any experience using scalp massages on your scalps, please share them in the comments below. If you guys want to try out derma rolling, I do sell them on my website. You guys can check it out at hairlicious.com. Thanks again. And I know a lot of you guys have been asking me about any updates pertaining to some of the hair loss treatments in the pipelines. I'm going to be doing some more research, and I will go ahead and share with you guys what I found shortly. But stay tuned. I will do a video on that. And if you guys have any questions, please make sure to leave me some comments below, and we'll see you guys next time. Take care.